So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the HeyGears Reflex RS and my opinion of it after using it for about 6 months. This isn't a full video and I'm not going to tell you what printer you should or should not go and buy. It's just my opinion on it. Some of the things that have changed, because there's been quite a few software things that have happened in the background. Some of the things that I really like about the machine and why I use it as like my main resin 3D printer. And some of the things that I dislike about it, because there's a few of those as well. So that way, if you are in the market for this sort of machine, you can make a better buying decision and hopefully it just helps you guys out. Obviously, full disclosure, I was sent the Reflex RS by HeyGears free of charge. It wasn't a sponsored video, they've not paid me anything for this, but I was sent it. So basically, it's a high value thing, so that will bias my opinion. I always try to remain impartial, but just putting that out there. So before we kick off with some of the changes, let's talk about some of the things that haven't changed on this machine. And that's because it's physical and it can't actually change. And that is the plate. So there's no getting around it. This has a really flat plate. So when it drops in, pulls out, it's not slanted or sloped, which means the resin builds up on top of it. You have to use a scraper to scrape off all the resin. That is still there. However, one way of getting around this, they now do a drip tray, which like attaches onto the front of the vat. So as you're pulling it off, you can like almost pour it or angle it so it's not going to drip down the front of the printer. It's not the perfect solution, but it is a solution to an annoying problem that is otherwise physical. What I've been doing is, as I take the tray out, I put a tray underneath it so that way it comes out with it, the resin drips off into there and it's not too much of an issue. You do lose some resin doing that. I wish it just was slanted, but at least it's a solution. Another fix that has also come out for this is that when I first covered this printer, what would happen is once the printer was done, it would just stay. So that plate would sit either like middle or wherever it finished for its like almost last layer, it kind of slightly rise up and it would sit there. And that made actually getting the models off without a mess a bit of an issue. So you'd scrape all your resin off at the top, you'd then unfasten the bit and then you'd go to slide it, but you'd have to kind of like angle it so you couldn't then like tilt it. Now there's an option on the printer. So once it's done printing, there's an option on the screen which basically resets that build plate and it rises right up to the top. Now this is perfect because it means that you can unfasten the build plate, pull it off and angle it, which means all the resin will then run off of it and drip, and then pull the plate away. Makes far less mess. So thank you very much for adding that feature. Another big update that they've made, and I'm sure this wasn't here when I first did it, was that you can update from the printer. So previously, you could update from your PC or your laptop, send the update to the printer, come out to the printer, go to the update section, and then it would install it. So there was quite a few steps in between it. Now you can just update it from the printer. So you can go into the settings, hit update. If there's an update available, it'll pull it down and it will install it. It's a nice big win, just makes things much, much simpler. Moving across from the printer itself over to the slicer, and the slicer has improved quite a bit. I think it was a really good slicer when I started using it anyway, but there have been some like minor quality of life improvements that I really appreciate. The first one that was based on a lot of feedback when this printer came out was that people didn't want to necessarily have to log in. They didn't want to set up an account and everything, which is fair enough. I get it. If you don't want to be online, you don't want to have all of your stuff all over the place, that makes sense. They now have a completely offline mode for the slicer and it doesn't require a login. So again, a nice big win. You can just download their software and use it all basically over LAN. You can put things onto just a USB stick and print them in the traditional way of 3D printing without having to log in and sign up for an account. So a big win for those who just value security and they don't want to be on the cloud and the internet, which again, perfectly understandable. The next one is a really minor thing, but clicking and interacting with your models when they're on the slicer and moving them around just feels easier now. Beforehand, you had to click on a really specific part of the model, and I'm pretty sure it had to be the model itself. So if you had a pre-supported model or you auto-supported through the software itself, you had to like click directly onto the model. If you clicked around the edges, I'm probably making no sense here, it wouldn't click the model. So it was hard to quickly grab things and then reorder them. Now, if you click basically anywhere on that model, including support or the auto support, it just grabs the model itself and you can move it around. It's so much easier, so much snappier, and it just, I don't know, it works like normal resin 3D printing slicers. So I massively appreciate that. The next one, and this one is a big one, at least in my opinion anyway, is you can save support profiles. So I talked about the fact that their auto supports are fantastic, and they really aren't. We'll come on to that in a bit. But you can now save support profiles. What I was finding when I first started using their auto supports was that it would rise or raise, whatever the English is for that, the model from the print bed quite high. It was like 5mm high, which meant that you were printing and had just wasted resin and risk, in my opinion, of failures, although I never actually had failures, but they were just too high from the print bed. And I always manually went in and changed basically the minimum distance. So that way it was like 3 or 4 millimeters instead. But you had to do that every single time. You can now save support profiles, which is really handy. And this is handy for those of you out there who are printing like different types of things. So if you've got something that needs thicker supports and you know that you're going to be using that all the time for a certain type of model, you can then save that profile. And if you've got something that needs finer supports and a whole bunch of those different things, you can save those support profiles. So it just means that you can tinker and do lots of things and really fine tune your support settings, save those settings, and that way you don't have to do it every single time. So really big win with that one. And the other thing, they've now added remote printing. So you can send your file from your laptop or your computer. So I have to go into the house, send it, then come out here and do my printing. So beforehand you had to send it, come to the printer, hit print, and it would start. Now there is a remote print option. It doesn't work on the Reflex RS at the moment, which is really frustrating. It's there on my printer, it's there in the software, and when I click it, it's like, hey, stay tuned, it's coming soon. Sad Sean. So 6 months on, that's still not available for the printer. It's there and it's really, really teasing me. And I really, really, really want it to work. But at least it is coming. So I guess we're one step closer to that. But please just release it. I want to tinker with that. So there's sort of like the quick fire like changes or the non-changes. But what about how I found it over the last 6 months? And I can mention at the beginning of the video, this is my go-to printer. I have 2 printers currently set up out here. I have the Frozen Mega 8KS because it is a big printer and it's helpful when I am doing large prints. This gremlin, for example, was basically printed on the Frozen with the ears and head printed on the Reflex RS. The Reflex RS is not a small printer. It's still a relatively large printer. So if you're into miniature gaming, miniature tabletop and all of that, it's still a really good size for all of that. You can print vehicles off, you can print some bits of terrain off on there, you can print some pretty large stuff. So it's no slouch. But they're the 2 printers I use, the Reflex RS and then the Frozen as well. So why do I use the Reflex RS versus other printers that I've got? And it all comes down to convenience. It's a really convenient and easy printer to use. And over the last 6 months, I've had incredibly clean results. I've had really detailed results as well. If pre-supports aren't working, and I do face this sometimes because obviously I cover a lot of different profiles and creators and everything on the channel. So there's a lot of like newer creators who won't necessarily have the best pre-supports in the world. And even some of the really established creators don't have the best pre-supports in the world. If I run into that, I can then just use their software to do the auto supporting, and their auto supports are fantastic. So that again helps me to get the results that I need conveniently with very little tinkering. I just like the way it's all integrated. So I get good results, it's fast, it's reliable, but even right down to things like the software and everything. I know some people won't necessarily like cloud software, and I get it. I completely understand why. But from a convenience perspective, it's just really helpful for me. And I guess for a more of a prosumer market, that's where it really kind of comes into its own. The other thing I like is just how everything's integrated. So if I use my phone, for example, I've got the HeyGears app on here. So if I slice something on my laptop, if it's a really large project, sometimes it can take a little while to do it. What will happen is once it's done slicing, I'll get a notification pop up on my phone, say, hey, that's done now, you can do what you need to next. I can then send it from my laptop out to my printer, and once that's done, it will pop up and say, hey, it's ready to go again. Then come out here and start printing. It'll tell me when the printer has started, so it'll do all the preheating side of things and heat up that printer. And once it's started and it's going and it's not had any issues, it will also tell me if I get any issues on it where for some reason it fails to start, which I have had once. And that's because there's a kink in their like pulsing bit, which basically meant that there's no air getting through from the compressor to the printer. So yeah, that side, it also alerted me and it will tell me when things are done. I just like the way it's all joined up together. It's just a nice, convenient thing to have. Now, whilst I'm talking about my 6 months of usage, I've printed a lot of stuff. And it has all of these like metrics on the application itself, which tells you like how much longer it estimates things will have, like the FEP, for example. And that's something I got asked about on, I think, my last video about this is the FEP. How easy is that to replace? Now, the FEP, there are 2 of them. There is just their standard normal VAT, which doesn't have all these like plasticky bits. And then there's the one that's meant to work with the pulsing release mechanism. And it has these bits on the bottom of it. Now, if I was going to hazard a guess, you could absolutely replace your standard FEP with just a standard FEP sheet. That would be no issue at all. In terms of its design, it's exactly the same as every other 3D printing VAT bit that exists out of there. It comes apart into all these different bits. So you've got your vat, you've then got that metal frame that you unscrew from the vat, which then pops out, and it has that FEP sheet sandwiched between the two metal pieces, and with like your little hex key, Allen key, whatever it is that is part of your printer, you unscrew all of those, the two metal parts open up, and then you take your FEP sheet out, pop a new one in, slab it down, screw it all back together, stick it back into the vat. It's exactly the same design as that. There's nothing here that is like, oh wow, that's completely different. So you wouldn't necessarily need to worry about that. However, if you are using something like the pulsing release mechanism and all of that, it's got bits on the FEP there that are designed to work with it. So you couldn't do that because you would need that exact thing. So the way that HeyGears want you to obviously replace your FEP is you will buy a pack from them. And they come in packs of 2. And in fact, I have one kicking around here somewhere. So they basically, they sell them in these packs of 2. It comes like that. So this is the pulsing release one. And when I say about the plasticky bits, it's this bit here and this bit here as well. So it's about, I think it's £80 for 2 of these. And that comes with the metal frame. It also has this like NFC or QR code or whatever, that once I do the replacement and put it back onto the printer detects it's got a new one in there and resets the lifespan. So that way it warns me, you know, when it's wearing out, which is quite a nice little feature. It's an interesting thing, and I get it. It's meant to be more convenient, and it takes some of those steps out. So it is faster than replacing a traditional FEP, because all you need to do is unscrew the old one from the vat and screw this one in. So it's about 50% faster, because ultimately with the other ones, you'd have to take this out of the vat, unscrew all of this, put the new FEP in, screw it all back in, place it back in, make sure you've got like the tension and stuff right with the FEP sheet. So it was a bit of a pain, but it's quite expensive for that convenience. And it's not as convenient as I would like it. For something like this, I was expecting more from it. And this might just be my expectations being unrealistic, but I thought that there would have been almost like a slot or a groove in the bottom of the vat that you would unfasten or unclip the FEP tray, and it would slide out, and then you could slide a new one in, and then it would drop down and put the pressure and stuff like that in there. But when you're paying that and you've got this sort of design, I wish it had that. Again, might be me being completely unrealistic, I don't know. But for £80 to get 2 of these, it's not unreasonable, but I feel like there's a lot of waste because you're wasting all this metal. Again, it'd be good if you could trade in the old metal bits. So once I've got through these, I will end up with like 3 spare metal things kicking about, which seems wasteful, and all the screws kicking about, which again seems wasteful. Kind of wish that I could just send them back for recycling, get some kind of voucher or discount off of new ones of these, but we'll move on from that now. Just wanted to cover that because people asked about it last time. Another thing that I always said I would update people on is the heating and how it works. We've just gotten through winter in the UK, and winters get cold. I'm in this garage. The insulation is very bad because I haven't actually finished it yet.